8 days till Texas Longhorn football. What's up, guys? BK Brad Kellner. Today is Friday, August 27th, 2021. And that's right, a week and a day until the Longhorns take the field at DKR against Louisiana. We actually have college football getting underway tomorrow, week 0, taking place tomorrow. I think 5, 6, maybe 7 games throughout the country. It'll be great just sitting on the couch watching college football. But of course, the first big college football Saturday, a week from tomorrow, that is when the Steve Sarkisian era will officially begin in Austin. Today, our countdown continues. We've been taking a look at the 12 biggest questions facing the Longhorns going into the 2021 season. If you've missed any of the first few videos, I'll put links to those in the description below. I did not record a video yesterday. I actually did record an episode of the 1-0 podcast with Joe Cook of Inside Texas. So definitely check that out if you haven't heard it yet. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. Glad the 1-0 podcast is making a return. Took a little bit of a hiatus while I moved from Austin to Houston, but the 1-0 podcast is back, and we're going to be bringing y'all episodes every week throughout the season. So check that out, but I did not record a video yesterday. I don't plan on recording a video tomorrow because I'm going to be watching college football and probably drinking all day and enjoying the weekend. So we're going to answer 3 questions, or at least take a look at 3 questions facing Texas football going into the 2021 season. I want to make sure I get all 12. I don't want to shortchange you guys. So we'll go rapid fire through questions 9, 8, and 7 today. And then the next video will drop on Monday. We'll be back on track. We'll do 2 questions on Monday, right? Sunday's answer and Monday's answer will take place on Monday. So subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, so you get all of these videos and you're always informed when I release new content. And please like this video if you haven't done so yet. This video is brought to you by Last Stand Hats. You see the discount code scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Use BK10 at checkout and you can get 10% off your purchase of any Last Stand hat from laststandhat.com. Got the Domino's shirt today. Shout out to my man Ike in Austin. He gave me this shirt and he's like, there's no way you're going to wear this, right? And I was like, dude, I'm going to wear this all the time. So shout out to Ike. Shout out to Domino's. Not an official sponsor for today's video. That would be dope if I could get Domino's in on this thing, but wanted to give him some love. So we're taking a look at 9, 8, and 7 today, and we've kind of started this trend. I don't know if I could take credit for starting it because we did this on the triple option with our BKD back on the horn in Austin, but we're taking a look at the best Texas Longhorn football players to ever wear the jersey number of the amount of days we are from kickoff. So yesterday we were 9 days away, the best 9s in Texas football history. You've got a couple of candidates, Kwame Cavill, an all-conference wide receiver in the late 90s, Eric Jackson, an all-conference receiver in the early to mid-90s, Colin Johnson, one of your more recent number 9s, all of those guys, solid candidates for the best number 9 in school history. A few more that I'm sure I'm missing. Feel free to comment below with your best 9s in Texas football history. Number 8, we're 8 days away from Texas and Louisiana today on Friday. Jordan Shipley, 2-time All-American wide receiver. I think he's your best 8 in Texas history. And then number 7, that of course will be tomorrow. We'll be 7 days away from kickoff. Huff Daddy, Michael Huff, of course, on staff at Texas right now, the Thorpe Award winner in 2005, a huge part of that national championship winning team that same year. So comment below, best 9s, best 8s, best 7s in school history. I would love to hear from y'all. All right, guys, we're taking a look at 3 questions facing the Longhorns in today's video. We'll start with the offensive line. The offensive line has some experience. The offensive line has some and the hope is the offensive line has some depth. Now, the thing that gives me more hope than anything with this offensive line has nothing to do with the players on the field. It has a lot to do with the coaching off the field. Very, very excited for what Kyle Flood is going to bring to the table as this team's offensive coordinator, but more importantly, as this team's offensive line coach. A guaranteed upgrade over Herb Hand. If you've watched this team play football the last couple of years, you've known offensive line play has been a problem. Every Texas fan, every college football fan would point to the quarterback drought from Colt McCoy to Sam Ehlinger as the main reason why Texas football was as bad as it was during that stretch. Yeah, of course, quarterback, most important position. I'm not saying don't point to that, but You can also point to the lack of good offensive line play during the last decade for why Texas has been as bad as it's been. If you followed me before on this channel, on radio, through podcast, on social media, you know my thoughts on the trenches. The game is won and lost in the trenches at all levels of football. College football, obviously no exception. Texas went a decade without having an offensive lineman drafted. Like, not drafted in the first round, drafted, period. From Tony Hills, who was a 7th-round pick in 2008, to Connor Williams, who was a 2nd-round pick in 2017, still with the Cowboys, Texas had 0 offensive linemen drafted in the 7th-round NFL draft. That stat almost sounds made up, but it's not. Offensive line play has not been where it should be at the University of Texas. It's gotten better, and you've had some good players, right? Connor Williams, Sam Cosmi, the guys who come to the top of mind, but still, offensive line play has not been championship level. That has to change for Texas to get back to competing for both conference and national championships. I'm high on Kyle Flood. I know Alabama recruits unbelievable talent, so it's a little easier to coach there than it is to coach at some other places. But Kyle Flood is a proven track record of being a quality developer of offensive linemen. He's been a head coach at the college level before, an offensive line coach for a number of years. He's been an offensive coordinator before as well. That guy has some skins on the wall, and I think he's going to be an instant upgrade and a massive upgrade over Herb Hand, who, my God, the Texas offensive line could not pick up a twist or a stunt to save their life last year. And we heard reports after Sam Cosmi was picked by Washington in the 2nd round of this year's NFL draft. Like, we heard reports that Sam Cosmi had to completely relearn how to play offensive line because his technique was so bad. Like, that is the Herb Hand effect right there. And Herb Hand just was not good at Texas, needless to say. Once again, if you've watched this team, you saw that. So Kyle Flood, an upgrade over Herb Hand. With his track record, with what he did recently at Alabama, I'm excited about him. Now the guys on the field. Christian Jones, the left tackle, the projected left tackle, having to replace Sam Cosmi. By all accounts, he's had the best offseason of any offensive lineman on this team. That's a tough job because Sam Cosmi was far and away your best offensive lineman last year. And we know how important the left tackle position is, especially with a first-year quarterback. You want to keep that guy upright. Left tackle paramount to making that happen. By all accounts, Christian Jones has been really, really good at left tackle. So hopefully, look, I don't know if he's going to be Sam Cosmi right away. Probably not. But hopefully there's no serious drop-off in left tackle play from the last couple of years to this year. So Christian Jones, people feel pretty good about him. People I trust feel pretty good about him. I feel pretty good about him. Experienced guy. Speaking of experience, Denzel Okafor, projected starter at left guard, year 6 for him. One of those COVID guys using that eligibility waiver to come back for another year. You know, he's been up and down, hasn't started throughout the course of his Texas career, throughout the entire course of his Texas career, but a guy with a lot of experience, a guy with a grown man body, and a guy who I assume wants to play on Sundays. This is his last chance to put some good stuff on film to make sure that that happens. So a guy who's played a couple of different spots on the offensive line. I've always thought he's been more suited to be a guard than tackle. You know, he's transitioned and played a couple of different positions on the offensive line during his UT career. I think he's at a good spot at left guard. Jake Majors, young guy, redshirt freshman. But, man, last year when he played late in the season against K-State after the Kerstetter injury and against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, he looked really, really good. Mobile guy who I think could pull and really, really help open things up for Bijan Robinson and this running game. He's pretty fleet of foot for a guy his size. And, man, once again, the sample size, not a huge one in 2020, but Jake Majors delivered. Junior Angalau, very good run blocker. I think could use some improvement in pass blocking, the right guard, but he's another guy who's been a starter here for a couple of years. And then Derek Kerstetter, who as a center last year, not very good, but 2 years ago when he was playing right tackle, was one of the highest graded right tackles in all of college football. I think he had the highest pass block grade of any offensive lineman in the Big 12 2 years ago. And then Tom Herman, Herb Hand, thought it'd be a good idea to transition him to center, and that did not work. Kerstetter it didn't click for him at center. He obviously suffered that gruesome injury in the K-State game, but by all accounts, he's good to go and will be 100% going into the start of the season. So you should feel pretty good about the offensive line. I mean, I'm kind of in wait-and-see mode because of last year. I've got a little PTSD from really the last couple of years, but you've got experience. You've got talent. I mean, those guys were 4-star guys for the most parts, and you've got some depth there too. you've got a couple of pieces behind that offensive line. So most importantly, you got to have 5 guys that you feel good about. Hopefully Texas does feel good about those 5 guys. I feel pretty good about those 5 guys, but inevitably it's football. Guys get hurt. Do you have 6 guys? Do you have 7 guys? Do you have 8 guys that you feel really good about? Andre Carrick, is he good enough to step in if he needs to play a little bit? Tope Amade, another guy who's been here forever. Is he good enough to step in? Isaiah Hookfin, once again, Texas has recruited pretty well at the offensive line position, but haven't seen it from those guys on Saturdays in the fall. So what happens if you do lose one of your starters? How confident are you in this offensive line? That's a question. Hopefully, once again, I feel great about Kyle Flood. Hopefully he was able to turn things around over the course of one off season. It sounds like, and hell, our eyeballs told us that what Herb Hand was doing, not great at all. So that's one question, offensive line. Now we'll go to the defensive line. I don't have a question about the interior defensive line. That will not be one of these videos. The edge position is a question mark for me. Because you lose Joseph Ossai, who was your best defensive player. He was a team captain. He was your most productive player on that side of the ball. And, of course, he played the edge. He had 5.5 sacks last year. Nobody else coming back had more than 2. Joseph Ossai had 15.5 tackles for a loss last year. Taquan Graham was your next sort of defensive lineman in terms of the TFL stat. He had 7. No other edge on this team, no other returning edge on this team had more than 2.5 TFLs last year. I don't think anybody on this Texas roster is going to replace the production that Joseph Ossai had last year. I mean, he was just too damn good. One of the best edge rushers in all of college football. Hate that he's out for his rookie season. He was having a great camp and a great preseason with Cincinnati. I thought he was going to be one of the steals of the draft. And, of course, maybe he still will be down the road. But, unfortunately, it sounds like we're going to have to wait a year before we see Joseph Ossai at the NFL level. He was awesome last year, and he answered a lot of your questions about that position and about this entire defense in 2020, but he's gone. So who steps up and replaces him? Once again, one guy's not going to replace him, but which combination of dudes can come close to giving you what Joseph Ossai gave you last year? Jacoby Jones, a guy who flashed at times last season, a guy who's been in the program for a couple of years, a guy who's a senior this year, a guy who started a lot last season. He's one of those guys. He did some good things in the spring. You're still hearing some pretty good reports about him this fall. Alfred Collins is apparently getting some work on the outside, which that excites the hell out of me. Joe and I talked about that on the 1-0 podcast yesterday. Like, this team is so good on the interior of the defensive line with Keandre Coburn, with Moro Ojimo, with Tavondre Sweat, maybe Vernon Broughton in there too. Like, you feel so good about those guys up the gut that you can maybe play and move an interior guy to the outside. And Alfred Collins apparently is getting a ton of reps with those edge guys. And I love that. And Alfred Collins is a little bit bigger than your stereotypical edge in 2021. But, man, that guy can wreak some havoc in a backfield. We saw that in high school, and we saw that when he was on the field last season. We really saw that towards the end of the year when Tom Herman finally started playing Alfred Collins a little bit more. So Pete Kwiatkowski, he's talked about it from day one, and he's been about it for a long, long time. Well before he got to Texas, he wants to put his best 11 on the field, and he's going to be multiple, especially up front. So if that means putting Alfred Collins on the outside a little bit, lining him up as a 3 technique, making him more of an edge type of guy, I'm all for it. Get that guy on the field. I don't want it to be Keandre Coburn or Alfred Collins. I want it to be Keandre Coburn and Alfred Collins. If those are like your 2 best disruptors up front on defense, get them both out there. Get them both out there. Be a little bit more positionless. And once again, I think Alfred Collins can make some things happen regardless of where he's lined up on a football field. I just think he's that dude. He's a war daddy up front. Texas hasn't had enough of those in the past. So maybe Alfred Collins can be that guy, but the fact that Alfred Collins is shifting to the edge a little bit tells me that the guys who are there maybe aren't that good. And that brings me to the third question of today, and this kind of is in relation to the second question, to the edge position, the transfers. Texas brought in a number of transfers, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially in that edge room. And I've heard good things this fall about Ovie Oghoufo coming in from Notre Dame, who was not here for spring, didn't get here until midway through the summer, and also Ben Davis, the former 5-star, former top 10 player in the country in the class of 2016, started at Alabama, got hurt early on in his career. Alabama brings in 5 stars every year, and he just kind of got Wally pipped on the depth chart. It happens. it happened. So you'd like to think both of those guys playing at Notre Dame and Alabama, or at least getting scholarships to those two schools, have some talent. And it sounds like they're starting to turn heads. Ben Davis is being described as a leader on this defense right now, which is great to hear. Once again, Ovie Oghoufo also apparently turning heads. Ray Thornton coming in from LSU had a great spring. The coaches, everybody was talking about that guy a bunch during spring ball. He's still getting some praise as well. Devin Richardson, haven't heard a ton about him coming in from New Mexico State. He's more of an off-ball linebacker for me than an edge type of guy, but did play a little bit of edge during his time at NMSU. So how much of an impact do you get from those transfers, especially the transfers on the edge? Obviously, we can talk about Xavier Worthy, not technically a transfer, but that guy, everybody and their mother has heard good things about Xavier Worthy. Excited for him on the offensive side of the ball. Darien Dunn, another one of those transfers. We'll talk about the corners next week, but Darien Dunn, grad transfer from McNeese State. He's not going to start at corner, right? That'll be Deshaun Jameson and Josh Thompson. But what can Darien Dunn bring to the table? You can never have too many cornerbacks in today's Big 12. So those are my questions for today, guys. Offensive line, the edge position, who replaces Joseph Ossai? Can you get production? You need to get after the quarterback in this league. Can you make it happen? Not just in this league, in this sport. And the transfers, how big of an impact do those guys make, and how early can those guys make an impact for this team in 2021? All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching. Appreciate the love. Please like this video. If you haven't done that yet, please subscribe to this channel. Tap that little notification bell too, so you're always informed whenever I release new content. LastStandHats.com, today's video sponsor, BK10. There we go, at checkout for 10% off your purchase there. And once again, no video coming tomorrow, no video coming Sunday, but next week we will continue our countdown all the way to number 1, the biggest questions facing Texas football, as we sit a week and a day away from kickoff. So close, I can taste it. All right, guys, thank y'all for watching. Enjoy. Hopefully you're watching week 0 tomorrow. Maybe you have something better to do. I guess if this is like your last weekend where you have to do stuff before real college football starts, get it done, get it out of the way. But I'll be watching college football. I'll be watching some NFL preseason. Football season is here, and it is a beautiful thing. All right, guys, appreciate the love. Appreciate the continued support. Until next time, y'all stay safe. Y'all stay healthy. And hook 'em.